What's up, everybody? Sam Smyers here. We are halfway through 2024, and so in this video, I wanted to give you my top 5 trends that I have noticed for tech house. Now, the reason that I wanted to talk about tech house is because I'm going to put on screen this report from the IMS about the top purchases from Beatport by genre, and that seems to be tech house. And then also the most searched for genre on Loop Cloud is tech house. It's still a very popular genre. Lots of people are still making it, and also lots of people are still listening to it. The first 4 trends that I want to mention are things that I noticed particular about the actual songs themselves. The last one is going to be maybe more for those who are actually DJing out and performing, but I think that it's very important and something that a lot of tech house DJs have been overlooking. The first trend that I have noticed for tech house in 2024 is that the BPM has increased. Now, last year, I think the BPM, and maybe even before last year, the BPMs felt like, I think they were hovering more around 124 up to like 127. And I think it's because Deep House was really popular before tech house kind of blew up with the A Craze song that came out, Do It, and that kind of blew up everything. But I think that at that time, we were used to these BPMs around like 124, and then before that, you had, this is kind of over 5 years ago, where you had Tropical House, where it was kind of hovering around the 115 range. So BPMs have been increasing, I would say, maybe over the past 7 years, because in the, maybe even longer than that, let's say the past 10 years, in the 2010s, when you had progressive house, 128 was the standard. Everyone was making 128, Calvin Harris. Everything was this 128 BPM. And now tech house, I have been seeing so many tracks hovering around this 128 BPM. And also they have been going even faster. And I'm going to give you some reasons why I think this, but we can just take a look at the top songs on Beatport right now. I've got the Beatport Top 100 for tech house loaded up. I'm going to be looking at the release dates just to make sure I'm including all songs that were released in 124. But if I just like look at you can see the genre and the BPM. This is why I'm using Beatports aside from Spotify, because Spotify's not going to list that stuff. 128, 134, 131, 127, 128, 130. These are all much, much higher than the kind of 125, 127 range I was seeing. Here's one 126, but that came out like earlier in the year. And that is Fisher, who has kind of been around that song has kind of been around. Let's see, he's got some other reworks. It seems like Fisher's still sticking around the slower BPMs with his reworks. But simply just like looking at this chart, or you can look at like 1001tracklist.com, you can see that these BPMs, the tracks are getting faster. And I think that's because tech house is supposed to be like a mashup of like house music and techno, but I think it's leaning more toward techno now, because techno, you have in the kind of a lot of the harder techno styles, you have BPMs around like 140, even faster than that. So I think that tech house is becoming a bit more influenced by techno, and that kind of allows it to get into those faster BPMs. I don't see them going too much faster. This Girls track that I see by Dom Dalla, that's actually pretty fast, 134. If you listen to the actual bass melody in that song, it's kind of on the upbeat, so all the bass does. Let's see if we can play it. You kind of just have the bass only on the upbeats. So that's kind of like very reminiscent of just like a fast techno, or like a techno song. So a little bit more influenced by techno than house, I feel like, for tech house. And also I think that the 128 BPM, for some reason, people just love to dance to that 128 BPM. And we have, everything's open. All the clubs are open over the past year or so. And it takes a while for these tracks to come out, because let's say people make tracks for like maybe a year or so. It can take like that long for tracks to come out. So let's say that all this stuff has been happening over the past year and a half, where everyone is kind of out and about dancing at festivals and stuff, and 128 just seems to work. That people love that BPM to dance to. Also, this is just kind of like my theory. I think that these run clubs are becoming very popular. I think you can look at New York, LA, a lot of artists. I think Diplo has one, Cody Ko has one. These run clubs have become a new social way for people to meet up and get together, because people are looking for other ways to get together aside from doing things that involve drinking. And with running, you are listening to music a lot of time, and the BPM of the music you listen to can influence how you run. So maybe something to do with all the people kind of out and about running, exercising more, being more active, going out to the festivals. When you're running, maybe they're listening to that BPM. Some people claim, I don't see any kind of research for this, but 128 are the human beats per minute, like, is around 60. So 120 is double that. And so like anything around 120, 130, you kind of sit in this kind of perfect range that kind of works with the human body. But that's just kind of like, I don't know if there's any scientific research for that, but maybe it has something to do with why this increase in BPM is becoming more widely, I see this more widely in these top tech house songs. The second trend that I'm noticing for tech house songs in 2024 is that there are more FM bass sounds and less like lead sounds, your traditional lead sound that you were hearing maybe a couple years ago. And when I say FM bass, I am talking about like FM bass stabs, even the FM basses that are kind of playing the main rhythm in the groove. And maybe with this faster BPM, we need kind of softer bass sounds that are that you kind of can get from like FM basses. But I think maybe also the influence of like D&B is becoming more popular in the US. So bass music, and with Skrillex coming out with all of his songs last year, a lot of them were kind of in that bass house BPM. And of course, Skrillex is all about like FM, like all of his bass sounds are using a lot of FM. He started out using the FM8, and that's how he did a lot of his like dubstep stuff. So this influence of like Skrillex, D&B becoming more popular, and bass house. So bass house genres are kind of making their way into tech house, and also just like the BPM being a bit faster kind of helps to that, because bass genres tend to be I think 170. You got like D&B, I think, is kind of 170. So there's just some things where I think that maybe with the groove that you kind of are seeing more FM bass. And I have some songs I want to just check out. We can see, and I'm going to play you some basses in them. So hopefully I can just play these and YouTube won't catch this. Here's one from Gorgon City. I think this came out earlier in the year. We're going to hear this like big bass stab at the beginning. Maybe something you would hear also in this melodic techno genre that has become very popular. That's also probably influencing a lot of the tech house sounds. That bass sound, I feel like, is kind of a melodic techno style sound. And that you can hear, if you have that happening at the beginning of the drop, you can't have like some lead playing. So what you have to do is you have to kind of space out the drop a lot more. You have maybe these bass stabs coming in, and then occasionally you'll have these random leads come in. But I don't feel like we're overwhelmed by these lead sounds anymore. Let's check out this Eat the Bass Now by John Summit. Let's just check out the bass in here. I'm just going to stop these and start these so I don't get caught flagged on YouTube. You can hear that bass happening that is playing the rhythm. I think there's some like FM in that bass, but also like aside from having the vocals in the drop, there isn't like, there's a lot more space in the drop to allow room for the more FM sounds. Also, we've got the Dominator that came out by Biscuits. Let me put this on. I think there's a kind of a cool bass stab at the beginning of the drop. I'm the one and only Dominator. I'm the one and only Dominator. So you heard that kind of like big whomp, like a wub, bass wub thing happening. And then when you have that happen, like you want it to reverb out. You want it to be like this big moment. So you can't have like all these leads happening in the track. And you can hear he brings in like a lead toward the end of the track. But even then, it's just kind of like a few plucks here and there. It's not really filling up the whole drop. Next, I think there's one in this Britney song, around 52 seconds. Let's listen to it.
Got me dancing like I'm Britney.
Now, I don't know if that one has FM, but kind of following the same idea where you have this big like stab sound at the beginning of the drop.
Yeah, got me dancing like oops, I did it again.
And then almost the same thing with his lead in that Dominator song where you're just kind of using these pluck sounds occasionally throughout the drop. And then the final one I want to show you is this one from Kyle Watson, Fantasy. Same thing, big bass stab sound, soft bass playing the rhythm, and then you kind of have these beepy sounds. And for the leads now, I'm hearing more square wave leads. And when I say square wave, it's almost like, so if you take something like a sine wave and add a lot of distortion to that sine wave, you're going to square it out. You're clipping off the kind of the round peaks of that saw wave. So these leads, you can use things like taking an 808, which is usually kind of distorted, clipped, and put it up into a few octaves higher, like this one kind of sounds like. Some kind of distorted 808 sound using more square wave leads, I think. And if you listen to like any of James Hype tends to use a lot of like square wave lead sounds. So that's something that I've been noticing, just kind of more of these like FM stabs. You can find samples like this. I have a bass house preset pack, which kind of has a lot of these kind of bass housey FM sounds inspired by Skrillex that you can check out. Now, the third trend that I've noticed for tech house in 2024 is that hip hop vocals are becoming more widely used. I think previously we're still hearing this, but R&B vocals were being used really widely, like Do It To It. On My Mind was another one by Diplo and Sidepiece, and then many, 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 many more. You had these early 2000s, maybe like late 90s R&B vocals being used because they were kind of, these R&B style songs were kind of around the same BPM. But now that we're kind of changing the groove a bit, getting a bit faster, putting more space into the drops by not filling them with leads, I think that these tracks are now finding cool hip hop vocals to put in to the songs and keep kind of leaving these tracks more about like the drum and then like an old school vocal. And I've got some examples that I'm going to play you. Now, I played this one by Matroda. This one is not like an old hip hop vocal. It's actually by this guy called Dances. I believe this was like an actual something he collaborated with him on, but it's got the vibe.
Like I'm Britney, got me dancing like I'm Britney, got me dancing like I'm Britney.
Kind of like he's just saying, got me dancing like I'm Britney, like Britney Spears, I guess. So you can imagine that's kind of like it almost sounds like something that would have came from like a hip hop song. And then after that, there is a song by Sosa that came out called Blow, and it is with Kilo Ali. It's sampling a song that he released in 1990, an old hip hop song in 1990 called America Has a Problem. And let's just play a little sample of this. Okay, so you can hear like he's using that hip hop vocal. Next, I've got one from Nate Dogg, this Pick Up the Phone. This was kind of a #1 Beatport song recently by Pasa. I don't think this was super old hip hop vocal, 2016. So let's play this one.
Sexy got it going on.
So they can hear that we're using that hip hop vocal. I'm just playing you really short snippets because I don't want to get this flag. This is going to be a video for YouTube, so I just don't want to get that flag. But this is a song, go check it out. Then we've got this one called Drop That Shit by Liquid Rose.
Drop that shit. Drop that shit. Drop that shit.
I don't know where that vocal came from. Sounds like a hip hop vocal. It might be, it might not be, but that's kind of like the vibe they're going for.
That shit, motherfucker.
So they can hear more of that. And then the groove is cool. No leads really in that drop. Focusing on using those, I don't know what that sound is, but I think Skrillex used those drum sounds, which reminds me that that you can be like influenced by the kind of bass house Skrillex stuff without using the FM bass. You can use like a lot of percussion stuff as stand-ins for using leads instead of using a lead sound. Then I've got this one. Finally, I think this is the last one I want to show you, using hip hop vocals as an example as the main vocal. Using some vocals from 50 Cent. So if there's any way that you can get a hand on any kind of hip hop vocals, maybe you can go on Smyers, go find some like hip hop sample packs if they've got anything good in there, or just kind of sample something, make like a bootleg remix of it, and see if you can kind of license it or something like that. But I think that is kind of a huge trend right now. I haven't really been seeing too many. Like there's definitely like the R&B vocal stuff, but I've been noticing this where you have more kind of space in the drops, so they're filling them. These tech house DJs and producers are filling them kind of with hip hop vocals. The fourth biggest trend that I've noticed in tech house for 2024 is that there is a hole in the market for a big tech house song. So maybe this is actually the opposite of a trend because I haven't really seen it. And what I mean is that if I look at the charts, I see the tech house charts on Beatport being dominated by Fisher, which Fisher is the biggest tech house DJ and also Chris Lake. And when I see the charts being dominated by the biggest player in the market, that tells me that the competition is low. There aren't any like newcomers coming out with any new bangers. I mean, think about like last year, Malp had his song that Drugs in Amsterdam, and then Dom Dollar was already big, but he had his massive song Rhyme Dust, and those were kind of these things that they posted on the social media, blew up on social media, I think TikTok, and they kind of exploded from there. I have seen that the reworks by Fisher are dominating the charts, and I feel like that's just a low effort way because he knows, or who like Fisher and Chris Lake know that the competition right now for a good tech house song is so low that they're just kind of pumping out these reworks that are coming out, which I feel like saying a rework instead of a remix is almost like a low effort remix. Like, why don't they just call it a remix? I mean, maybe you guys can tell me why they're using that term instead. But I've noticed, I think maybe a week ago, all like the top 10 on all of Beatport, the top 10 tracks were like 3 of these Fisher reworks. So there's this one, the Somebody Gautier rework by Chris Lake and Fisher. There's this Jamming rework, which came out in 2024. Let's see, look at it, see what else we got. The Waiting for Tonight one that came out in May. And with those reworks kind of dominating the charts, I think that this tells me that DJs are going to Beatport saying, okay, I don't really know what to download. I'm just going to download like the top tech house DJ top song. Let me just kind of download this Fisher track. I mean, I really like all the stuff, but I want to see some big tech house song of the end of the year. I mean, summer's already almost over, going to be over. Now, Dom Dollar does have this girl's track. I mean, it came out really recently. This one's pretty big, got a lot of action on social media, like TikTok. And so if you are hoping to get a song out, then I would recommend trying to get something out quickly because it seems like the competition is really low for something really good. Kind of using the tips from earlier, the trends that I suggested earlier, hopefully that helps kind of help you get some inspiration for creating a song that will kind of dominate. And then just I would look at how Dom Dollar promotes his tracks. And a lot of times what happens, like for example, with Rhyme Dust, someone posted it online and then it got so much action that they had to like get it cleared, and we're like, okay, we know this is a hit, let's put it out. If you have some kind of like TikTok strategy, like putting snippets of your songs on TikTok, try getting some songs out, because maybe they'll take off right now, because it seems like there isn't really too much interesting that I see coming from Tech House as far as like big charting songs. Then also look at the labels that are really working right now, that people are kind of getting the tracks from. I think Repopulate Mars was really getting a lot of really hits, maybe last year with like especially Mal P, but I've noticed that a lot more Tech House tracks from Chris Lake's label, like Black Book Records. This label called Nervous, I've noticed them popping up. And then I think those were kind of like the two main ones. And then also John Summit's label is picking up steam with Experts Only. I think also that these kind of bigger DJs have gotten that shiny toy syndrome where melodic techno has become so popular that now they're experimenting into this melodic techno genre. So they haven't been creating these tech house tracks that would fit specifically in tech house. They're more like melodic techno style tracks, or I think maybe they're experimenting in other genres that we're not getting, like a lot of just kind of pure tech house songs that's would fit in this chart. So maybe this isn't like saying that there isn't any interesting songs like in these melodic tech house, melodic house, tech house genres, but as far as just like this specific chart, I think that we could really use something new. Now, the fifth and final trend that I've noticed for tech house in 2024 is YouTube vlogs. Now, this is not going to apply to all tech house producers because maybe there's producers making tech house that are not really touring and just playing locally. And that's why I said that at the beginning of the video. This one is more for tech house DJs, maybe more geared toward professional tech house DJs. This is something that I don't understand why more tech house DJs are doing. I'm going to put up a chart that says that 52% of electronic music fans get their music and find new music from YouTube. So you definitely need to be using this platform. But also, I think a lot of people are going to YouTube for long form content. YouTube has been making a push to get more podcast style content. Now, I know a lot of DJs are not doing podcasts, but one way to do long form content is to just film vlog style content. I'm going to give you some examples of some channels that are doing this really well. Some people that are doing this really well. Number one is going to be James Hype. James Hype is a master at social media. If you are a DJ, he is the number one person you should study on how to conquer social media, because the way that he has grown his YouTube in the past year, probably 2 years, I think it's been growing. He started this vlog called Moving Differently, which shows everything from him traveling, him playing shows, and he's been consistently putting that out like every week on YouTube. And he has grown his YouTube. I think his YouTube's like over 1 million people right now. He's grown his Instagram to over 1 million. I should check his YouTube. All right, so yeah, he does have like 1 million on YouTube. So I just looked, he has 1 million on YouTube. So he's definitely one to study for this vlog style content. Now, obviously, he is more of a professional DJ, kind of like top level, that you might think, well, I don't have a team. I'm not touring across Europe and America. I don't have a videographer, but I think that you can look at other smaller DJs like Disco Lines has his vlog series. I think he's done 60 of them or so, and it's called Disco Days. I think he's been doing them like all at 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Now, what I do recommend is that you make these vlogs not highly edited, because if people want highly edited, we can get that from TikTok, we can get that from the Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. If you're going to YouTube, you're wanting this long form content because people are going to YouTube now to watch podcasts. Like I watch so much long form content. I just want it to be kind of slow. I'll put it in the background. So if you can kind of slow down your vlog content, it doesn't really have to be that interesting. You just got to do it. You got to film it and put it out. So for the first couple years of me running my YouTube channel, like I'm not doing vlog content, I'm doing tutorial, but I just used my iPhone. I filmed everything on my iPhone. So if someone else, even if you are playing local shows on a consistent basis, or doing things like kind of interesting, like making music, but you're not really like touring, like even if you're just getting some type of vlog content out of that, I think you should definitely do that. Maybe it's not on a weekly basis. Maybe it's on a monthly basis. If you can kind of like over the course of a month, like put out a video, okay, this is like everything I did this month, have someone else film parts of your shows with an iPhone, have a friend follow you with your iPhone, or even if you don't have someone that can follow you around, just kind of doing it to camera, selfie like. I think if you watch any of, this is not, I mean, Cody Co has been DJing, but he had a running channel where he was doing more this kind of talking to face. I think he's probably using like his iPhone. Cody Co, who's like a massive YouTuber, but he had a running channel, and I believe it was called, let me look this up. It was called Cody Trains, and it's literally just him kind of talking about his training activity, and it's not like anything fancy, anything highly edited. And this is just like a format that I think people say vlogs died, and I think on YouTube, and I think that style of vlogging died, that was kind of, oh, you gotta do these like big things and show how like big life is and do like funny things. But now it's just kind of, I think the slower form of vlogging is kind of becoming more popular. I've been watching more vlogs of just kind of seeing what people are doing, maybe day-to-day more boring stuff. And so if you are touring, then a lot of stuff that you're doing while you're touring seems really boring to you, but maybe people want to see that stuff. So maybe they want to see like you filming, oh, my flight was canceled and now I got to wait 6 hours for my next flight, but we got to make the show. And then after that, you get the show, and then you have someone like film you DJing your show. And then maybe you also get that. I think a lot of DJs also kind of capture their sets using a Zoom recorder. So maybe you also just have the vlog where you're showing, kind of just watch like any of James Hype's, how he shows him playing his shows. And then he'll also release like a professionally filmed sets. But even if you can't do that, at least like capture the audio and put it on YouTube, on like SoundCloud or something. John Summit just started his. I think his is called Backstage with John Summit. He has 2 episodes. You can tell that he has realized that this is becoming a trend. Fisher had one that was called Follow the Fish. I don't think he's kept up with it. That one was highly edited, and this is what I think that, I don't think it should be highly edited. I think that there's more, it's a higher obstacle if you highly edit it, because you don't want to kind of put in all that effort. But if it's more something like, even James Hype's Moving Differently isn't all that edited too much, and he has like a full videographer with him all the time, and it's just more long form. So if you can get any kind of vlog content on YouTube, I would kind of recommend it, because you can show, okay, I'm at the show here, I'm making the track, and then you can do more behind the scenes stuff. And if you look at, like, I'm using James Hype as the example here because he's doing track breakdowns, he's doing, this is how much I'm making, like he's just doing all kinds of stuff. He's doing everything that he can, and that is why his social media has been growing. So if you're like a professional touring tech house DJ and you're not thinking about some way to get vlog content, then I think you should definitely do that and capitalize on that, because I think that I think a lot of DJs kind of feel, you see a video on social media, like on Instagram, of, it's like you see their back, you see them on the decks, and you see the crowd, and they're just like doing some kind of drop, and it's like not that interesting. Like, we kind of get it. We see the crowds, we get all the people like being excited. Like, it's not that interesting. I see that just so much. And what is interesting now to me is seeing like the behind the scenes stuff, like the John Summit backstage with him. Like, that is way more interesting to me than following him on like Twitter and seeing his Twitter stuff, or like this Moving Differently with James Hype. So I think those are kind of the 2 main ones to look at, and then see if you can kind of develop a voice if you do start filming this vlog content, longer form content. Try to develop your own style. So those are my top 5 trends that I've noticed for Tech House in 2024. It is halfway through the year. Maybe I'll do this at the end of the year if any of this changes. If you liked this style of video where I'm just kind of breaking down things that I see as trends, then do let me know in the comments if there is anything that I missed as far as trends go that you have noticed. Leave that in the comments, because I'm curious what other trends are happening that I maybe didn't really think of. These were just kind of things that I have been noticing as I've been working on these sample packs, preset packs mainly, with like sounds, and I focus a lot on tech house, so I felt like that I'm kind of up to date with the trends that are happening. But if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give it a like, and also please subscribe to my channel if you are not yet subscribed. And if you'd like to check out any of my senior preset packs, head on over to store.samsmyers.com.